Welcome to DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. It's time for another one of my controversial 3 videos, or controversial 4, or I think this is the 5th, controversial 5, where I talk about some opinions where I think not every DM, Curse of Strahd DM, will agree with what I say, but I think it's kind of important to talk about these things and think about these things, but, might be controversial. So to quickly recap the past ones, I talked about being careful if you make the map size of Barovia bigger. Sounds like a good idea in theory, and I know a lot of people do it to make Barovia seem bigger and scarier and more daunting, but ironically you might actually making the game easier, not harder. I talk about it in that video. When to introduce Strahd, because I feel like a later introduction within reason, not too late, but a later introduction than what a lot of DMs do can actually be better. Why you shouldn't rig the Taroka reading, I'm not a big fan of rigging it, but doing it fully random out of the book is probably not the best either, and I found a nice in-between solution. And then I did a 4th one where, because originally I was only going to do 3, hence controversial 3, I had those 3 ideas, and then I've had ideas for more, and the 4th one was to let players play whatever species they want, because I know there's some DMs who don't like certain species because of, they don't like flying PCs, or they limit it to just the core races, or even just humans. And I think, you can get away with, 95+% of species, even the more unusual ones, but there are a couple of exceptions that probably don't work best in Curse of Strahd. And now, PC backstories. How or if you should tie them into Curse of Strahd. You get the usual disclaimer, this is just my opinion, I'm just one guy, and there will be people who disagree with me, and I'm not saying that if you don't follow my advice, you're doing Curse of Strahd wrong. It's more of the angle of, you might have this idea, and think, cool, I want to really tie in PC backstories, and then you watch this video and you go, oh, actually, yeah, because of some of the points I've made, you might not want to do the idea, but what you don't want to do is just go into it, having not seen this video, and then realize after the fact, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done. So I'm just trying to sort of like warn people in a way of saying like, this is just some stuff to think about if you're considering this. And I will say later on that there's some circumstances and exceptions where I think the opposite does work well. So I'm not saying this is true 100% of the time. It depends on certain factors. And just to warn as well, there's some crossover with some recent videos I've done. So I did a video about how to add a new PC mid-campaign. So if you watched that recently, there'll be some repetition. And also with the recent video I did about running Curse of Strahd for second-time players. If you've watched either or both those videos, I might repeat some of the stuff I said in those. There might be a bit of overlap. And the obvious spoiler warning for any players, current or potential, if you're watching this video because you want to learn more about how you can affect your PC's backstory or getting PC backstory ideas, this will contain spoilers and is intended more for DMs and players, sorry. So in traditional D&D, players and the DM come up with the backstory for the PC, and the DM tries to weave it into the story. For example, the PC might be looking for a missing person and may get clues about where they are as the campaign unfolds. Or the PC is a monster hunter after a particular monster. But Curse of Strahd is different. Curse of Strahd is one of the D&D campaigns where arguably there shouldn't be backstory stuff. And I say this as a past player of Curse of Strahd before DMing it, who had a backstory. I was a human fighter trying to find their mentor, and I was a little disappointed that my DM didn't include it. So we finished Curse of Strahd, defeated Strahd, left Barovia, and I was like, well, I still haven't found my mentor. But then when I went to DM Curse of Strahd, I realised and understood how weird it would have been to just suddenly find my mentor in Barovia. Because the whole spirit of Curse of Strahd is the PCs get sucked into some unknown world, like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, or the concept of isekai in anime. You're not in Kansas or Waterdeep anymore. I think that works best and works really well as an intro to the campaign and the setting, in my opinion. And this is where I get controversial and might upset people. It risks being contrived if PC backstories are heavily tied to it. You're a long-lost Dusk Elf? What a coincidence. You're actually half Vistani? What a coincidence. Someone you're looking for is in Castle Ravenloft dungeons? What a coincidence. Granted, the mists work in mysterious ways, and it could be cool if Strahd has a PC's backstory NPC in his dungeon, certainly adds to the horror aspect, but it just feels like too much of a coincidence. So how do you avoid player disappointment? Session 0. Talk to the players early on and explain it's not that type of campaign. They may have multiple PC ideas, and may save the elaborate backstory PC for another campaign. Or at least they know their backstory stuff may not come up. Because in my opinion, Curse of Strahd works best if the PCs arrive into Barovia from outside Barovia and outside the Domains of Dread, and have zero ties to the domain, or the Domains of Dread as a whole. It is a classic fish out of water scenario. They don't know where they are, or anyone there at first until they obviously get to know people and help people. I just think that's isolating and it works well in horror. And you can potentially say to your players that you could do more PC backstory stuff in a sequel campaign. For example, once they've left Barovia after defeating Strahd, if you continue with the same PCs after Curse of Strahd, like I've done in my home game, we moved on to a wider Ravenloft domain hopping campaign. You might think, oh, but it'll work well for one player, so I'll just do it for one player. There's the risk of main character syndrome for a start. And then you might feel when you've done it with one player, you feel obligated to do it for the rest of them, otherwise they may feel left out. Or there's the risk that the other players think it's the PC's fault they're in Barovia in the first place, because that PC had some sort of link or tie to Barovia, and therefore it's your fault we're in Barovia. I feel like it should be an all or nothing thing, ideally no ties at all. That said, it can be good to tie elements of people's backstories to the story beats in Curse of Strahd. For example, a PC searching for a missing person may relate to Gertruda being missing, or Arabelle the Vistana. A PC searching for a mentor may bond well with someone like Rictavio as a mentor figure, or Ez because she's looking for her mentor. A monster hunter may be interested in finding and defeating the werewolves in the werewolf den. And a knight paladin type might be drawn to Argynvost Holt in the Order of the Silver Dragon. Lunch Break Heroes Raising the Stakes Guide has suggestions on how to do this. It's kind of like a personal quest section that ties the major 5th edition classes with different locations and or NPCs of Curse of Strahd. For example, the Bard may want to recover the Doss loot from Castle Ravenloft. A Druid or Monk may want to quell the animosity that lies in the heart of the Yesterhill Druids. And a Wizard might be drawn to the Amber Temple. That's on page 5 of Raising the Stakes PDF if you want to see the full list. For this reason, I avoid Barovia or Domain of Dread natives as well for players who are brand new to Curse of Strahd. Another reason being, you're giving the players potentially extra homework, especially if they're brand new to D&D. That can be quite intimidating. I'll give an anecdote of when I was a player of Curse of Strahd. We had someone who wanted to see what D&D was like, and instead of creating a player character, they were given a stat block, and they were a native Barovian. I think the story was that his sister was killed by Strahd. He wanted revenge. Good classic story. But this person was brand new to D&D, which it can be overwhelming enough. And then they were the Barovian native of the group. So often it was a case of, the rest of us who were from, Faerun or whatever would be saying, do you know this stuff? And the player would be like, I don't know, does my character know this stuff? Kind of pleading to the DM, help me here. And they might have struggled to remember stuff. They obviously weren't there in the earlier sessions. It essentially slowed down role play, and it was probably quite intimidating for them as well. Kind of put the spotlight on them quite a bit. I think there can be exceptions though. Second time players, this is the video I did recently. If they've already had the classic start of the people misted away, spirited away from another world to Barovia, feel free to try something different. A Ravenloft or Domain of Dread native, somebody tied to the setting, could work well if they've done the classic start before. Or a new PC mid-campaign, and this is what I did with one of my players. This was a partner of one of the players I already had, and they were established D&D player as well. Their backstory was, I'm a knight from somewhere, but didn't really know where. So I said to them, instead of being like a knight from the Sword Coast, from Faerun, I said, are you happy with the idea of being a knight from Falkovnia? It's a Domain of Dread like Barovia where there's zombie sieges, and they really liked that idea, so that was cool. And although they were new to the game, like I said, they were established D&D player, so they didn't, and I checked with them and they didn't mind having like the extra homework and, I know extra stuff I can tell you. Plus, at that point, we were about halfway through, 2/3 of the way through the campaign, and my players had already met Van Richten, who was their fated ally, and Esmeralda. So they already learned a little bit more about Barovia and the nature of the Domains of Dread and the Mists and so on. And if you allow someone to be a PC mid-campaign who's a Domain of Dread native, but not Barovia, it's a great way to set up a Ravenloft sequel campaign, because in my group, once they defeated Strahd and could leave Barovia, that paladin from Falkovnia wanted to go home. So it wasn't the next place they went to, but one of the next places they went to was Falkovnia. And then from there, they learned more about more Domains of Dread and so on and so on. But in conclusion, I strongly feel the players new to Curse of Strahd should be from outside Barovia and the Domains of Dread with zero ties. But it's just, like I said, one guy's opinion. I know there'll be exceptions to the rule. I know there'll be some people who've done what I'm saying maybe you shouldn't do, who've done it to great effect and it worked well. I'd love to hear your experiences actually of what you did, how you did it. Feel free to leave some comments. That's it for this one, a nice and short one. So on the future videos front, on Curse of Strahd, I've teased things like doing a video about Babylon Saga and the consorts, but with the Horrors Within coming out, the wide releases in a few days' time, as I put this out, I'll probably do a few videos that are for Curse of Strahd DMs, but like, should you get the Horrors Within, will it help you run Curse of Strahd? You know, or the Barovia and Strahd information in it. I might also do a deep dive into the new Strahd stat block. I know quite a few people have already done that on Reddit, but given that I did my video about sort of how to run Strahd in combat with the old version, if you will, and looking at alternative stat blocks, it'd be quite cool to do that as well. And then on the Ravenloft front, because I always do Ravenloft videos, I will of course be doing quite a few Horrors Within videos. My next video is going to be like a overview video. I might look at the new monsters in it. So like the brand new monsters, not ones that have been carried across from Van Richten's guide and updated. And then in the future, I have plans to do more videos about the Shadowlands. I put one out because it's kind of split into like 3 areas. So I'm doing it in 3 parts. Part 2 and part 3 will be coming soon. And I don't shout about this enough. I have a membership. It's very similar to Patreon, but it's like YouTube's own thing. You can get access to videos early. You can get access to emoji. I add some emoji of Strahd, Aslan, Irina, Van Richten, a couple of others, I think, and there's more pending in the future. I've not done many of them yet because I'm still waiting for the numbers to grow, but it'll be members-only polls, sort of help steer the channel and help me decide on stuff. And I'm going to potentially do some more tiers soon where, you know, I can give you one-to-one help on your campaign or do sort of once-a-month check-ins, that kind of thing. So if you want to learn more about that, I'll leave a link in the description. And we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching.